Hi, my name is Johanna Talbot and I'm from Spokane, Washington. If you're not familiar with Washington geography, Spokane is the largest city in eastern Washington on the east side of the Cascades, so several hundred miles from Seattle. And what brought me to the high school is that when I was a little kid, I grew up on a farm in the Tri-Cities, which is southeastern Washington, and we're out in the middle of nowhere, and we went to a three-room schoolhouse that was probably 20 or more miles from our house. And being a three-room schoolhouse, it didn't have a library. So once a month, the Mid-Columbia Library System would send a bookmobile to visit us and bring all the books that we could possibly want to read. And I thought that looked like the coolest job ever, to drive around in a bus full of books. So I've wanted to be a librarian since I was a little kid. Fast forward 30 years, and I've spent the last probably 12 years as working in corporate records management, which is not really like a librarian at all. So I'm kind of in the middle of a career change, or about to attempt a career change. So my professional goals, I'm kind of having an existential crisis about that because a couple years ago I took a year off because I was working on a project in Chicago that took it was like 80 hours a week, and it's impossible to go to grad school and work 80 hours a week without, getting real sick and stressed out. And so I had to take some time off school. And because of that, I've watched everyone else in my cohort graduate. There might be one or two of us left, but that's it. And so now everybody is trying to find jobs, and watching how hard that is, and especially people like me who don't have a library background prior to starting this program, I'm kind of having a crisis about what I'm gonna do when I graduate, and I may just end up finding myself back in corporate records management. But if I did that, I would have a leg up, because an MLIS does actually help you if you're looking at going into corporate records or corporate librarianship. So we'll see what happens. My interest in this class is I have focused so much in the last few years on anything that could help me is in terms of corporate librarianship or records, which is kind of stupid considering that I went into the program wanting to change my career, and yet I was continuing to study things that would help me do what I was already doing. So in the last year, I've been kind of trying to take classes that would help me if I were in a public library, and taking readers advisory classes and a couple of literature classes and stuff like that, and also exposing myself to material I wouldn't have otherwise read, in genres other than the ones that are my favorites. So the first book I ever read with diverse characters, I can't really remember honestly. And growing up in this part of Washington, it really is a monoculture. There's not a lot of diversity over here. And so when I moved to Chicago for a year, it was just a total culture shock, because you have every ethnicity you could imagine and every race you can imagine. And so it definitely was a learning experience, and I think that's important to continue to learn and expose yourself to different viewpoints, different ways of being, and different ways of looking at the world. So that's something I want to continue in my life. So and let's see, for the interesting fact about myself, I'm not going to talk about it here, but I'm going to give you a link to a project I did for a storytelling class. And it's a story about something that happened when I was a kid that was like literally the most magical thing that ever happened. So if you're still listening, thanks for listening, and I look forward to interacting with you in this class.
Created using Powtoon.